Hello.
Hey.
Hi guys. It is Friday, the 31st of July, and it is episode 128 of our lockdown vlog. How are you doing, guys? How are you doing, Chris?
I'm alright.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I'm not doing too bad myself. Hasn't been quite such a manic week of like getting ready for reopening because we've still got a big question mark on whether or not we can. So I have been in and doing a fair bit of work, but not as sort of vivaciously as I anticipated. But I probably could have vlogged yesterday, but I did not because on Wednesday night after work I went out. Pubs are allowed to be open outdoors at the moment, and so me and a couple of friends decided to partake. And it shows that I haven't been to the pub in a long time, doesn't it? Because I went mental. I drank the entire contents of the pub and made an absolute tit of myself. So there we are.
I was going to say I could vouch for that, but I wasn't there. I can't vouch for it, but certainly what she said is consistent with what happened when you arrived home.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I have very little recollection of.
Yeah.
And I absolutely hate when I have like blanks in my memory, and most of that evening is a blank in my memory. And so then I just get the fear really bad of like, oh God, what did I do?
I know, you were very pessimistic about it.
Yeah, I was very unhappy with myself about all of that.
I feel like you assumed the worst.
I think I did. Well, because I don't remember anything. Like normally I'll sort of like I'll like they might be like, oh yeah, I remember that, but it doesn't like all complete. But literally it was just I woke up and I was like, do not recall anything.
Or some of your friends filled in some of the blanks.
Yeah, none of them. Yeah, but even when they were telling me things, I had no recollection of them. At one point, I stole one of their pairs of glasses, put them on, did an interpretive dance, fell over. Apparently.
Wonder what you were trying to interpret.
My joy at stealing some glasses, I suspect. So yes, very embarrassing. I need to grow the fuck up, and I also probably need to stop hanging out with girls who are like 5 and 10 years younger than me because they're a bad influence and I should know better by now. But there we are. But it was encouraging though, because it was my first foray sort of out into the general public in Wales in pubs. And the pubs were doing an amazing job, because actually what the Newport City Council have done is they've actually closed the high street so that all of the little bars and pubs that are along that stretch can all have much more space outdoors, because quite a lot of them don't have any outdoor space or have very little outdoor space, just like a little smoking area at the front, and that's about it. So they've increased the amount of space they've got. So there were plenty of tables that were very well spaced. And it was all very fancy. It was like there was an app that you could sort of scan a QR code, order to your table, pay by contactless. So actually, I think I was overly encouraged and was just like, yeah, this is fine, and then just went mental. Got a bit carried away with myself there, I did. But all being said, despite the absolute cringe fest of like torturing myself the day afterwards, it was, from what I recall, a good evening. So that was good. But bad girlfriend points, well, bad fiance points, because I'm not used to calling myself that yet still, because we haven't really been meeting other people much since we've become engaged. So I guess if I'm ever talking to anybody about you, I just say Chris. Mm-hmm. And so I wouldn't sort of be my boyfriend or my fiance. So I don't actually, it's not sort of I'm not used to saying it yet. So it doesn't fall off the tongue yet.
No. Well, that's it. Since we've been engaged, we've mostly been in each other's company.
Yeah, it'd be very weird if I just sort of, hello, fiance. This is my fiance, everybody who already knows you.
So, why bad girlfriend points?
Bad girlfriend points, though, because you were gigging that night, and I had intended to just have one or two after work and then leave the girls to it.
Yeah, but I didn't begrudge you.
No, I know you didn't, but I had wanted I had planned to come home and watch you gig, and therefore bad
There
fiance.
will be other gigs. It's fine.
But I did get to watch it afterwards because you had a link.
I had a private link.
Yeah.
That is not to be shared around, unfortunately.
Unfortunately not.
Because that was a
performers only.
Well, it was a ticketed event, so if we give it away for free now, that defeats the object. And
it was really good though. I loved it. So actually, because I think I think it's fair to say we're a little bit sort of nervous about being a bit rusty. Or also, I don't think you've quite got fully on board with streaming gigs, really.
Well, I'll be honest. I have not really been keen on streaming gigs since the off, either watching them or performing them particularly. And I've sort of avoided it for the most part. A couple of times people have asked me to do like 5 minutes here and there, and I normally will do things if I'm asked. It's just always nice to be asked, isn't it? It's sort of flattering that people want you for a thing. So I've done one or two and not really taken much joy in it, and they've largely been kind of new material things with kind of quite a lot of acts on, and it feels like you're waiting quite a long time for your bit. And anyway.
But this was more of a sort of traditional gig setup, wasn't it?
Yeah,
sort of like an opener. And then sort of, did you do 20 minutes?
No, I did 10 minutes. There were four of us doing 10, and then a break, and then Ig did like a headline set. So it was a slicker, it was very well organised and ticketed, as I say, and there was like a Zoom audience. So I was nervous about like not really having gigged much since February in any sense, and just having a live audience and not having really written any stand-up. I've been writing other things instead, but not any stand-up, and just sort of going, do I still, and performing as well, going, do I know how to do this, and performing to a camera, a webcam like this, with a live audience, rather than actually having an audience in front of you. It's a whole different thing that I'm still getting to grips with. But
one thing that is better, though, I think, about it being like a Zoom gig, is at least you do have feedback. You can hear reactions, and people can mute themselves if they prefer not to be heard, or if they're, I don't know.
Yeah,
it is a bit weird, but I think that's better than just doing a YouTube one, because then you don't know if to put a break in, you don't like have the punctuation of laughter, but also not having that feedback obviously is a bit like, is this landing? I don't know. This could be great. This could be terrible. I have no idea.
It's a real learning curve. But I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to.
I really enjoyed it. I have to confess, I only watched Chris's bit back. I intend to watch the whole thing.
The others were really good as well, actually. And other than Ignacio Lopez, who organised it all and ran it all, and Athena Kugblenu, who is really good. But I can't remember the names of the other two acts, but you can't go and watch this anyway, so I guess that's fine. But they were...
Who cares who they were? It's fine.
Yes, they were really good though. Genuinely really funny people. And I enjoyed doing the gig lots more than I thought, and watching the other acts, which is another pressure that you have. Like, if I'm at a gig, maybe I've got some new material to try, or I'm waiting to go up, and maybe I'll be at the back sort of running over my lines or whatever, to suddenly be going, I kind of feel like responsible to kind of sit and watch and join in when I'm not, and be laughing and attentive when I'm not on, is a different kind of vibe.
Well, you had a possibly predictable predicament during the set, which is because obviously you sat here in our living room, but this is something that doesn't normally happen when you're watching a gig, but that several different animals will come and pester you for food. But then you're like, I can't really get up and leave the shot.
I can't really be like, Ig, I know you said you wanted to put me on second, but it's going to clash with the dog's dinner time, so...
Another reason why I should have been here, but I'm going to stop beating myself up.
Fine, yeah, that's absolutely fine, but it was fun, I enjoyed it, and just writing some new stuff, some topical stuff that
I really loved your new stuff.
That was really fun, and then to get feedback on that in the form of laughter and be like, oh, that works, that's good. Like, I've forgotten how much I enjoyed that, really. So, which is good.
I had a feeling that once you were doing it, it would all come flooding back. But I think maybe it's just like, I was actually nervous about running games at the escape rooms after so long, because it's like, oh, I might be rusty, and I was rusty. But it's just like, oh, it does all come back to you. Like, you do know what you're doing, and I do know what I'm doing. Yeah, this is good. I can do this.
There are some very specific technical issues you get with doing a Zoom gig. And certainly I learned, not just by doing it, but also watching my set back afterwards. Because if you're in a comedy club, you know, you've got a microphone, and even when the audience is laughing, you're louder. And obviously, like, the best thing to do is kind of pause and let people laugh and then continue in the silence, and do your next bit so everyone can hear it and you get everyone can understand, follow, and you get generate hopefully more laughter. But when you're at first, I was on a webcam and I was really rattling through it a bit at the start. You can tell at the start of my set I'm going a bit quick because I'm just moving on to the next joke. I'm not convinced necessarily that this audience is going to laugh. Not in a self-deprecating way, but partly because it was new material, so you never know. But I'm not sure how this Zoom gig works. I'm going to hear laughter. Is there going to be feedback? Am I going to have to rattle through? Is it going to be weird? So I was just a bit hurried, and then you get people kind of laughing over the top. And that's the other thing with a Zoom gig as opposed to live. You're talking into your mic on your webcam. They're talking into they're laughing into their computers, into their.
But their laughter is likely because people do tend to laugh quite loudly, much louder than people speak. That actually sometimes Zoom will give. It would be good if there was a setting that you could sort of go this is the principal speaker.
Prioritise
this.
You can do that with the video.
Yeah, it's
where it
just
will keep the focus on that unless you have it in gallery.
It is good to hear it, but sometimes it'll go.
About Zoom, this is all
who is the loudest
jargony, but
voice? And then it'll put that to the audio. So every now and again, if you did sort of a punchline, but then there's a little follow-up punchline, that's sometimes got a bit lost in the laughter. So you just have to be aware of it.
Be aware of that and hold my.
Because I think if you're at a gig, obviously if people are laughing, you can hear them laughing, and then you wait. But when you're able to hear your voice, you don't know what they can hear, and so it's sort of you maybe have to go a little slower and just sort of assume that people are laughing. I don't know.
Someone had asked if I would be happy to be put forward off the back of that gig. They said, would you be interested in doing a paid gig on a Sunday night in Seattle?
Nice.
Yeah. By in Seattle, I would be
in
sat
your living
here,
room, but it going
out
to Seattle people.
Well, I guess
or a
primarily, I guess it's organised by someone in Seattle.
You didn't tell me that.
No, well, full of surprises. Yeah. But that's organised by someone in Seattle.
What's the time difference? So would that be you'd be doing it in the daytime, or would you be doing it in the wee small hours? I don't know which way do they go?
I think it might mean, it's different, isn't it, on the west and the east coasts in America? Yeah. But normally, if they have live wrestling, and I have to stay up late to watch it, don't I?
Yes.
So that could be.
And they're on the further coast, so you might be doing a gig at 4 a.m.
Yeah, I might check that.
Yeah.
That might turn out to be a very early Monday morning gig. Ooh. So.
Because actually staying it's fine staying I regularly stay up till 4 a.m. But staying up till 4 a.m. to then be at your best at 4 a.m. might be a different kettle of fish.
And able to gig and deliver jokes and things.
That's exciting though. That could be fun.
Yeah. So it's nice as well because a couple of paid gigs don't hurt at the moment.
And paid gigs that you don't have to commute for and you can do in your living room, technically in your pants. They don't know. They can't tell. He is wearing trousers right now. So am I.
Now. I was in my pajama bottoms. I did have bottoms on, but they weren't ones I'd wear if I was gigging in a comedy club.
They're very big, fluffy pyjama bottoms.
They're very cosy.
It's too warm for those pyjama bottoms right now. It's very hot in the UK today, although actually it was warning of being even hotter than today, so I'm quite glad because I do not handle the heat well. But it's hot enough to not be wearing big fleecy pyjamas. But yeah, usually for gigs, for vlogs, I'm usually pyjama bottoms. I will put a top on and a bra. You're welcome. I'm usually in pyjama bottoms. But actually, after this, we're going over to my folks' house, which is again why we're doing a daytime vlog, good people. Because heading over to my mum and dad's house just around the corner after this to have a little sort of games evening. So that's nice. David, who also lives there, is not there though. He's gone away with his little one for the weekend. But they are there. Sorry,
is that what we're calling his girlfriend now?
No, he's going away with.
No, I'm joking. I was doing a joke. His daughter, he's saying.
His daughter, yes. So they're not there. So it is just us two and mum and dad. But gonna take over some games and have a nice little, maybe some fish and chips. And actually maybe still sit in the garden because it's nice weather, but we don't have to because we're allowed to bubble with them. But that does actually lead me on to some more topical points, because, we'll start with the good stuff, because from the Welsh point of view, yesterday they announced that today they're going to announce, and then today they have announced, that they are going ahead with the planned relaxing of lockdown restrictions. So now up to 30 people can meet outdoors in Wales from any households, because there's not many households that have like 15 people each. But yeah, up to 30 people outdoors. Sort of all of the kind of planned openings of sort of indoor gyms, bowling alleys, leisure centres, swimming pools, indoor children's play parks, things like that. They are all getting the go-ahead to open, which is really good. That means everything is sort of going according to plan and on schedule. So that is very positive. However, over the border, it's a little bit of a different story. As sort of predicted, they've basically got to the stage now. I was reading an article on it that seems to suggest that they've kind of reached the peak level of being able to relax lockdown measures. But they can't go to the next stage because cases have risen. Likely they're around about the R1 mark. Currently they're predicted to be 0.8 to 1, but obviously because of the delay you get before people have hospitalizations and things like that, chances are they're higher than that. And they've had several areas where they've had quite big outbreaks, particularly in the north, Greater Manchester. Leicester's still having a bad time of it. So they actually never got to fully release Leicester's lockdown restrictions, and now they've been re-implemented. So today, Boris did one of his little press conferences that will honour us with his presence every once a month or so. So he did one today, but what they were planning on announcing, they did not announce. They had sort of put forward this coming week as a day when they were going to be able to do all of the things that Wales is doing, and they've said no, we've got to put the brakes on for at least another 2 weeks, but also take a little bit of a step back on some of the existing eased restrictions. They've gone a little bit stricter on them. So as an example, previously you were allowed to meet other households indoors in England, and particularly in the north. You're not allowed to do that now. Rather stupidly though, you are still allowed to meet them indoors in pubs. So basically the rule is you're not allowed to meet people indoors anywhere where you're not paying for the privilege. So in your own house, no.
You can risk your
health.
But
in a pub, yes.
You can risk your health if it's boosting the economy, basically.
Basically, seems to be the rule.
I always find it weird anyway that they sort of pre-announce what they're going to announce. Because then people have expectations, or people go, well, that's basically been announced, and they start behaving accordingly ahead of time.
To an extent, I agree, but what they've noticed them doing, a sort of big picture and longer term, I kind of agree with them saying, if all is well, in 3 weeks from now, we're hoping to do that.
I guess like setting out like a kind of timetable.
Because then obviously businesses
occasionally it feels
need
like
to
they're sort of leaking
prepare
stuff on the Thursday that they're going to say on the Friday.
Literally, it's very mixed messages again from the English government, because last night they were suddenly saying, right, these are the things that are going to be announced tomorrow, and then today they went, no, they're not.
So why so that's my point.
Why leak them? Because it's sending, I have to feel like that the plan seems to be to have mixed messages so that they can blame people for not following instructions rather than blame themselves. But and this leads me nicely on to another thing I wanted to mention, which is the Tory MPs playing the blame game. Check this out for an absolute fucking dick move. There is a Tory MP, I'm not sure what his constituency is, I'm guessing he's a backbencher, but Chris Whittaker, who has been vilified for saying this, but without putting forward any evidence or anything he's basing this on, he said there is evidence that the Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities, particularly the Muslims, haven't been taking coronavirus seriously enough, and that's why they've been disproportionately affected. They haven't been following lockdown measures carefully enough and taking it seriously enough.
Show your workings, Mr. Whittaker.
what are you basing that on, fella? So that is a dick move. I suspect his thinking there is that it has been proven statistically that Black, Asian and minority ethnic groups have been disproportionately affected by coronavirus. There are many reasons why that could be, and I very much doubt it's due to complacency following lockdown measures. It's much more likely socioeconomic measures of living in more crowded communities, having key worker jobs, being frontline workers, those kinds of things that basically lower wage, higher risk jobs, largely.
Ellie, I don't want to start a race war.
Good.
Not again. But when they did the Black Lives Matter protests, and when I say they, I just mean people as a whole.
Yeah.
But when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, put it that way.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit reticent about people are going to be going out and protesting, and are they going to maintain? I understand, I appreciate and support the cause, but are they going to maintain social distancing? It's a bit of a worry. But then all the photos and the reports showed people social distancing. There were reports that kind of they had like black people there organising the speakers and sorting that side of things, and white people who wanted to help with like handing out masks and water and things, and it was all very carefully organised and great. And then we've seen photos of people dancing in the street on VE Day. We've seen photos of people sat far too close together on beaches. A lot of white people. A lot of white people getting involved in stupid things for no causes.
Largely quite pink people now, I would say, but judging by the beaches. A lot of gammon.
Yes. A lot of sweaty pink idiots. And I know how I look, but still. But, you know, I
like how you look.
Well, good, but it's... I just think, like, how can you...
Yeah, it's such a dick move. But to say something like that, what I think in his stupid gammony head, he has thought is, he's heard that black and minority ethnic groups have been disproportionately affected by COVID, so he's gone, oh, they must be flouting lockdown. Secondly, he's also heard that black and minority ethnic people have been more commonly stopped and fined for lockdown measures. So he's also gone, aha, they must be breaking the rules more often. Entirely sidestepping law enforcement bias and the fact that basically, ultimately, we know that regardless of actual wrongdoing, black people particularly, and Muslim men, actually it's usually, doesn't tend to be the women, but get stopped by the police and asked what they're doing and just sort of, what's going on here then, fellas, far more often than kids, like young lads of the state of white sort of.
But we've known for years, like
so,
this, where
so
they
the
kind
fact that like it's confirmation bias. He's sort of going, well, the fact that they've been prosecuted more means they've done more wrong, and it's like, well, that could be the case, but I suspect it is not. And he's got no evidence to back it up, and he's just said this sweeping statement, essentially saying that black and minority ethnic people are to blame for the fact that the coronavirus infections are on the rise. And you can go fuck off there, mate. Shut the fuck up, sit the fuck down. Like, I'm not having that. That is just...
It's a weirdly...
Show your workings or shut up.
If you have any evidence, and I'm not convinced that it will be solid.
No.
But, you know, do show that then, rather than just... You can't just say... It's a really inflammatory thing to say.
It's really inflammatory.
You think as a politician you'd have a bit more sense? Not that it's fine to think those things behind closed doors, but... Like,
no, you'd think you'd have some sense of, oh, they don't like it when I say racist shit, though. I better not say it. Like, you think... but I think it does boil down to not really thinking it's racist. They just think it's facts. And that's like, I'm not racist, it's just a fact. You're like, no, you're racist. And you're using your racism to back up your views by twisting statistics. But yeah, what a dick to say that. Like, well, particularly when it has been largely people from those backgrounds that have paid the price with their lives and with their health disproportionately to white, British, sort of Caucasian people. So it's absolutely just the fucking nerve.
I was listening to a radio show once, this is years ago now. Stuart Lee was talking about how in the 70s the Conservative Party had a campaign slogan that was, if you want an N-word for a neighbour, vote Liberal or Labour. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, actually, it's, well, finish your point, but it wasn't actually official Tory sort of propaganda. It was done by sort of independent Tory-leaning campaigners, but it wasn't officially. It was then if you've already got one, vote Tory, but it was worded better than that. But like not better, but more pithy.
But the point that Stuart Lee made was like, if political correctness has done nothing else, it's forced the right wing to hide their racism behind coded language.
Yeah.
And I mean, the irresponsible behaviour of black and Asian people is responsible for.
He did say particularly Muslims.
It's not.
What are you basing that on, fella?
It's not very coded, is it? That's just racist.
Yeah.
That's just racist.
Racist.
I think he's just a racist man.
I think he is. He's just a racist Tory man, and he's an MP.
He might not be a racist. He might be a man who has done a racist, but isn't in and of himself a racist. But if that is the sort of racism that he is willing to do, that implies to me that he probably is a racist.
When you say done a racist, do you mean like done a racism?
Yeah, he did a racist, didn't he?
Done a racist sounds like
a racist.
Done things with a racist person. Yeah, that's
maybe he got the idea from his wife. Maybe his wife feeding him the ideas about Muslim men. I don't know.
Oh, I wasn't actually planning on talking about this, but actually, just while we're on the subject of Tory MPs being utter bastards, Charlie, I don't actually know how you say his name. It's spelled like Elphike, Elphike, I think, or it might be Ické. Odd name. He was suspended, rightfully so, in 2017 after he was accused and charged with 3, or it might be 4 counts of sexual assault against, I think, 3 women. He was rightfully suspended and he lost his seat. Actually, I think his wife then took over his seat and campaigned to have a seat, but rightfully so, she has divorced him. But so she's also a Tory and she still got the seat. So, but anyway, he was suspended as an MP. They reinstated his MPship just in time for Theresa May's vote of confidence as to whether or not, because she knew she was on like hard lines as to whether or not she was going to get it through, so she just scrabbled together any MPs she could, reinstated the whip, got his vote of confidence, and then got rid of him again. Nice morals there, Theresa. Anyway, his court case has actually come to fruition and he's been charged. It has all gone down. They haven't sentenced him yet, but it has been confirmed that so it wasn't just that he was arrested for it, it has now stuck. He's had the trial, it's been confirmed.
He's been found guilty.
He's been found guilty, yeah.
And what's he been found guilty of?
Sexual assault of varying degrees against, I think it was largely like colleagues and constituents. Of varying degrees. I don't know the details off the top of my head, and I don't want to sort of misrepresent that, but I will find the link to one of the articles and just post the blurb, post it in the verb.
End up having his seat then?
When it all came out, she, I don't know if she was already estranged or if she became estranged when this all happened, but actually it seems like she was sort of sticking by him until the sort of trial came to fruition. So I think he stepped down, she stood in his seat and got in. I don't know if they did a by-election, but basically she stood in his stead in wherever his constituency is. So she's still got that seat. She was actually at the trial in the early days, but actually when the verdict came through, she said, this has been obviously a very hard time for me. She's washed her hands of the marriage. She I think she was giving him the benefit of the doubt, but then heard all of the evidence and kind of went, well, no, and said something along the lines of, I'm now having to deal with the dissolution of a marriage with the only man I've ever loved, and I would ask your respect and privacy at this time, sort of malarkey, which I think's fair enough. I am not one to sort of be sympathetic to Tories, but if your husband of many years is arrested and charged and found guilty of sexual assault, I imagine that's quite a rough time to go through. So she does have my sympathies there. He does not, however. What a fucking wrong'un.
It's a shame, though, that she's too old to have been pre-warned by your advice of never let a Tory...
Never let a Tory... Well, never touch a Tory's penis.
Touch a Tory's penis, because then if she'd not touched his penis, like ever, or got involved in a relationship with him...
Somebody else
all of her hurt would have been spared, wouldn't it?
Well, she should, see, this is why you should always heed my advice. Don't reward bad people with good sex. Basically, if they're treating you badly, they don't get the goods. That's the only way they will learn. None of this fuck boys and fuck girls and all this nonsense. No, don't reward them. So particularly if they're Tories or even further right than that. No sex for Tories.
But
it only encourages them.
But you said Theresa May reinstated him as an MP.
Yeah.
Did he have to stand in an election and fight?
Well, I don't think he'd actually officially been. He just she'd got rid of his whip. So he didn't But
hang on though. But if his wife had his seat,
I don't quite know the timeline on it. That's why I said I'll double check that. I will put the article in the blurb because I don't quite know the timeline of it. But I know that he was kicked out basically before the vote of no confidence, brought back in 2018 for the vote of confidence in Theresa May, and then has since gone to trial and been found guilty. So I think there was actually a few more charges. I don't think he was found guilty on all charges, but he was found guilty on several charges against, I think, 3 different women. So wrong'un.
I tell you
so what. That's Charlie Elphick.
I tell you what.
Elphick.
We were talking about it earlier, but what is slightly encouraging is that ages ago Boris Johnson kind of said, we'll be led by the science and we'll open things up and the R rate's important and whatever. And there'd been a sense since then of kind of maybe they're just going to plough ahead regardless at this point. They don't seem to be interested in turning back. So the fact they have kind of...
Yeah, I was quite surprised. It literally only happened today, in today's announcement, and I think the phrase he used was, we're going to have to just squeeze the brakes on things now. So that certain things, like I say, that were planned to be further eased are not going to be. I read a different article basically saying by a scientist sort of saying it seems like... kind of their plan, it seems to be, just to sort of keep it bubbling steady in the population. What are you smiling to yourself
I've just
about
remembered
there?
a thing. Do you remember that Boris Johnson did a press-up?
No.
Yeah, he did a press-up in front of the press conference going to prove, I'm feeling much better, I've had coronavirus, but I'm through it, and he did a press-up in front of the...
One press-up?
I think he did one press-up.
I could do one press-up, Boris.
Yeah, but the point is, it reminded me, because we have been binge-watching The Office like nobody's business, the US version of The Office.
Oh, God, we're ploughed through.
And there's an episode of that where Michael Scott is, showing off, doing press-ups in front of his staff.
Yeah.
And that's the level, isn't it?
Yeah.
Boris Johnson is like Michael Scott.
But less lovable.
Less lovable, less... the less redeeming features. Redeeming features.
Like Michael Scott is largely useless and fairly idiotic, but he means well. He just is socially inept, whereas I don't think Boris Johnson means well.
But just I mean, but the fact that he's doing press ups are going to show off in public.
Well, if anything, that just sort of having just bounced back from coronavirus and allegedly a stint in intensive care. And I say allegedly because it just doesn't, some elements of that just don't seem to hold water. I don't think he wasn't in intensive care. I just debate whether or not he needed to be in intensive care, or if they just kind of went, this is a good story, let's just give him an intensive care bed. It looks better, and then at least it buys us some sympathy and some time. Because it was only weeks later and he was fine, and there's people been in hospital for weeks and weeks and weeks with this. I don't think anybody bounces back from any stint in intensive care that quickly, and then doing fucking press-ups on the news. It's this is all just doing press-ups on the news. The Prime Minister, come on guys, this is...
I got 2 emails today. And
all right, show off.
Yeah, I know. And I wonder if they're anything to do with today's announcement, because I got an email this morning from a steakhouse.
Right.
Because I used to be the sort of person that would get emails from steakhouses.
Used to be?
Well...
You're still the sort of person who gets emails from steakhouses, clearly.
Well, I mean, I still get them, but I wouldn't... These days, I'm very unlikely to sign up for another steakhouse mailing list, aren't I? Because
Right.
we don't really go to steakhouses.
You're your own man. You can go to steakhouses.
Yeah, but I'm not going to go to an expense... I don't have the disposable income to be going like, you're not coming, I'm going out for a fancy meal on my own.
Just please don't blame in your association with me for the fact that you're not a steakhouse man anymore.
I was... It's also in Cardiff, so it's not, it's a bit out of the way. But, oh, it's so nice though. I love a good steak. But it's fine, I just get the ribeye steaks from Aldi and do those, a lot cheaper. Do them at home. Yummy. Anyway, point being, I got this email saying, hey, we're open now. Come and, and talking about the restaurant deals they've got at the moment and things, and hey, we're open, and book reservations, trying to encourage people back. And then I got another email in the afternoon going, oops, we spoke a bit too soon. So I don't know if that's got to do with things. I mean, this is in...
But that's Cardiff, so...
But I don't know if it's a national chain and they're just going, it's easier to roll things out simultaneously.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be... It might be affected by...
But it must be... But that's another thing where you go, this is why... Given these pre-announcements the night before, as it leaked me, it's like, don't do that, because then people plan and organise things around their business.
People might hear that story and not hear the story the day after, because they're getting ready to go back to work or whatever. So it's just mixed messages. It's not just the people who
run the companies, it's the staff who are going, oh yeah, I'm back in work, am I? Oh, no? What?
Am I?
No?
I don't know. Am I? Should I be? What? So yeah, it's still fairly shambolic, but actually on this side of the border, all is sort of going slow and steady and according to plan. So I'm happy with that. Gwent is actually doing really well still. Wales is doing pretty well. The English figures I had a little glance at. Not great. They're not absolutely, obviously they're nothing like sort of peak level. But literally, I just looked over the last 7 days and I don't think there was anything less than 500 new cases a day, and at times 800 to 900 new cases per day. 120 odd deaths. It's just these are not low figures. Obviously, when you're dealing with 67 million people, 100 and something deaths sounds like a lot, but actually there could easily be 100 people have died from electrocuting themselves, or just general other things. Actually, sort of a statistical, it's not a very big number in the grand scheme. But considering we're in lockdown, having sort of 600 to 800 odd new cases a day, which is what I mean about the other scientists who sort of saying it seems like this is about as relaxed as they're going to be able to go. Keep it at this pace and this sort of level of transmission and it's handleable, but if we relax things further it'll explode. So at the moment they're in a very precarious sort of position of just we can't relax any further, but there's still a lot of things not open. The furlough scheme is getting a bit of a sort of bashing by, admittedly it was in the Mirror, so it's not sort of the most highbrow journalism, but basically saying that we can't really expect a one-size-fits-all approach on this, because if there are businesses that are still not allowed to open, it's not really plausible to expect them to start paying from the 1st of August. Employers, including us over in Wales as well, have to start paying the national insurance and pension contributions for their staff. From September they have to pay 10% of the 80% furlough money, so the government will foot 70 and the employer has to foot at least 10. You can do more if you want. And then from October it's 20% to 60%, and then it ends in October. That's sort of fair enough if you are opening back up on a limited hours basis, because that person is theoretically earning money, and having their staff back means that the business is making money. But not if you're still not allowed to open. And so what probably is going to happen, unfortunately, is if all these businesses, so your sort of indoor gyms and bowling alleys and casinos and leisure activities that are indoors, are all then suddenly having to pay to keep people on the books, they're just going to take them off the books. Which means there's going to be a huge surge in unemployment in sectors that then later will need to be sort of started from scratch, which will cost a lot more than perhaps keeping it ticking over for the next sort of another, say, 4 months, maybe 5, but I don't know. Maybe it's just unfortunate that that's going to be fucking reality now, that like we're not going to be able to socialise indoors, and people won't be able to go to gyms, and people won't be able to go to casinos or bowling alleys or anything like that, and that's just going to be the new normal, is that we just don't do those things anymore. But that seems shit, doesn't it?
Case. I mean, it's
well,
really...
we're on part of opening them in Wales, so...
Oh, fine.
Pull up the ladder, Jack, we're all right.
But, I don't know, it just seems like it's, like, most of our adult lives, the economy's been pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like, they had the economic crisis in the early 2000s, and then
the 2008 global financial crash, I assume is what you're...
Yes I am, and I was struggling to replace it then because I forget how old I am. But so we had that, and then Brexit obviously hasn't helped with anything. Well, we had austerity for a long time in this country, then Brexit didn't help anything economy-wise, and now we've had global pandemic, and like you say, there might be more unemployment on the way. And what that means as well, of course, is when people are just desperate for any job, it really means like wages and, you know, employee rights and
it's an employer's market rather than an employee's one, because there will be people willing to do shitty jobs for shitty pay rather than no jobs, and they will probably squeeze the amount of benefit that will be available to people for universal credit and unemployment benefit, and all of those things will be squeezed so that people don't just go, well, I'll just live on this. Not that it's much, it's real pittance. If anybody sort of, the idea that people can like live luxurious lifestyles on like job seekers allowance, like, have you ever actually been on it? It's like 70 quid a week. You're not living large on that. Like, it's just not happening. But hey, so I don't think it's been laugh a minute today, has it? But there we are. That's an update.
Takeaway,
and we haven't even talked about any of the Trump stuff that's kicking off.
Oh, we haven't. No.
I tell you what, I'll just leave you on this because it's fairly sort of, well, he's on brand, isn't he? But Trump has tried to suggest that they need to delay the election, just further adding to his seeming like a fucking dictator. So nice one, Don. Hopefully, fortunately, it seems actually most of the Republicans in Congress are not behind this plan. I think they want to see the back of him, actually.
Yeah. He's not many, even for them, he's not their preferred Republican, is he?
No, I think he's burned a few too many bridges there. But it does just show the delusion. So he's already started sowing seeds of, because of the global pandemic, there's lots of states want to do postal voting. This is going to be like a mass fraud. This is going to be the most unreliable election in history, because all the polls are saying that he's going to lose, like, phenomenally. So he's just sowing seeds now to not accept the democratic result of his annihilation in this election. Like, so that's what I think that's about. I don't even know if he actually genuinely would want... Well, I think he would. If somebody we could wave a magic wand and just cancel the election, he'd just stay in power because he likes being president.
I saw someone on Facebook talking about this, and they were saying basically they don't even think that he wants to be a dictator. It's not that he particularly wants to be in charge. It's just that he doesn't like being in a thing that he might lose.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't even care about
it's
what
all
comes
ego
from winning.
and narcissism.
He just doesn't want to be seen to lose a thing.
Yeah.
Like, he's a fucking child, isn't he, in an old man body.
Yeah, it's all ego and narcissism, but none of it is actually, I don't even think it really is entirely about, the drive for power, because I don't think he's particularly doing anything with it. He just wanted to be the man in the top job. He wanted to do a lot of very good golfing for a few years, and all of this sort of global pandemic thing has been very inconsiderate.
I mean, it is, because it is to be fair...
I think Boris has actually had a similar... Boris wanted to be Prime Minister, but he didn't want to be Prime Minister during any of this shit, did he? He wanted to come in, sort Brexit out, and coast along for 5 years, and then fuck off and get his nice little Prime Minister's pension.
Just to be fair, if someone said to me, do you want to be president of the USA.
Yeah.
Well, you'll go, that is a prestigious gig. Like,
yeah,
you got bragging rights, haven't you? There. There's not many people who've also been president of the USA. Like, even ever, but certainly within your own, kind of generation.
Yeah. I don't think I wouldn't want to be prime minister. I wouldn't want to be president. But even still, I guess if somebody just literally like gives it to you,
I wouldn't
go, well, I could just really rely on my advisors for 5 years and then bugger off.
I wouldn't want to be a prime minister or a president, but I would want, like, it's something I would like to have done previously. Have it on my CV.
It'd be nice to say you did.
Yeah, and like.
Well, I think that I genuinely
I'd like to have all
that's...
the lucrative, even the bad ones, get lucrative book deals and kind
of. Oh yeah, after dinner speaking.
And lots of you set
a
for life,
massive pension. Massive pension.
I don't imagine you have to work very hard, and you're all set then. So that'd be pretty good. I saw yesterday on Facebook. There's a guy, and I won't say his name, but we'll say his name was Jones.
Right.
It wasn't Jones, but say his name was Bob Jones.
Right.
It wasn't. But I knew him when I used to work in a comedy club, and he didn't work there very long. He just used to like wash the dishes and stuff and sweep up, but that's how I knew him. And he was quite young.
There's some nonsense going on.
And his name on Facebook was Bob Jones Pot Smoker. Like that's how he had himself on Facebook. Like it wasn't Bob Jones, but it was Pot Smoker, right? He was just like a stoner teen, basically. He was about 19 or whatever, and just had this part-time job.
There'll be no repercussions to that.
And well, he invited me on Facebook yesterday to like his new page for his new consultancy company. I was like, oh,
what's he doing consultancy on?
How's Bob Jones Pot Smoker got his own consultancy company, and I haven't got a business. What's going on? This is bullshit. Very annoyed.
I'm sorry, I'm very distracted. I can hear nonsense, but I can only just see the back of a tail.
Yeah,
just want to check that there's nothing...
Oh, what?
What?
He's playing with my headphones.
Oh. I thought it was going to be like a dead bird or something then, but it was just Chris's headphones. That's fine. Right, okay. Well, he's not in the mood for cutches, Babs. Okay. Right, well, we should probably wind up there anyway. Do you want to try and come back into shot? He's got a cat on his shoulder.
On my shoulder, guys.
Okay, right, there we go. So we'll call that a day there.
He was just playing with my headphones on. Luckily, they're the ones that were already going a bit dodgy anyway, so... But still, it's not on.
He's got you can't have like wired headphones around cats. They're just.
I've just left them out of the way on the table.
Nothing's out of the way.
They'd all left them alone for days, and now suddenly I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. That's not the best note to end on, is it?
We've had worse.
We've had worse. Right. So thanks very much, guys, for joining us. We'll be back soon. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe. We don't know. We're going to have to just play this by ear. But actually, technically, I think maybe we should be able to do one tomorrow. But we'll see. So see you soon. In the meantime, as ever, do please like and subscribe. There's no shame in it.
There's no shame in it. Bye.
Bye.